So now in the previous lecture, we added the logic to fetch the data. And here I actually got a little hint that I should not name my local variable, which is only used in this function, with an underscore at the beginning. It works, but it's actually not recommended, so let's get rid of that. But with that, this is how we're loading the data. And of course, this works. The data is here, as you can see. But there are actually various aspects that we can improve here. For one, it seems a bit redundant to send a request and load the data if we're coming back from the new item screen. Because there we actually have all the data, and we even get that ID that's generated by Firebase. We get that as part of the response body. If you go back here and add some new item here, you will see that in the debug console, you get this data here. Now the 200 is the response code, but this here is actually the ID. So therefore it seems a bit redundant to fetch the data again, because we already got the name, quantity, and category, and the only missing piece was the ID, because that's generated on the backend now by Firebase, but of course we get this here as well. And therefore it actually would be a bit better to avoid this extra GET request and instead create the grocery item here in save item, as we did it earlier in the course, to then add the ID to it once it's available, and to then send back that finished grocery item to the grocery list screen, so that there, after adding a new item, we don't have to call load items, but we instead simply get the updated item and we can manually add it to our local list and avoid this extra HTTP request. And that's indeed what I'll do here. I will switch back to the code we had before, where I do pass a new grocery item to pop, and here the ID should be the ID that's part of our response body. So this ID here. Now this response body is in JSON format. So to access it, we first of all have to decode it. So here we got our response data, which we get by using this JSON utility object and then the decode method. And here I want to decode response body. This will give me a map in the end. So therefore we can also add this annotation. This will be a map of string dynamic. And here my ID will be res data. And then as you can see in the debug console, it's stored under a name key. So the ID is stored under the key name, and hence we can access the key name here. And this will be our string. So with that we'll get the ID. Next, we'll also need to set the name, and of course that is still available from up here. The entered name, entered quantity, and so on, that's all still available. So we can simply use these values: entered name, entered quantity, and last but not least, of course, also the category, which is set to selected category. Not just the title, but the full category. Then we pass this data when we pop here, and therefore in grocery list, we can again expect that data. So just as we had it before, now we can await for this route to be removed, and we'll get back that new item, which could be null. So we should still check for that, because maybe we used the device back button instead of the add item button. And if it is null, we just return here. Otherwise, we want to update our state, and we want to add a new item to that state. So here I'll reach out to my grocery items property and add my new item to it, just as we did it before. And with that, we save that extra request. So now if I save this and reload, the data still loads when this app starts for the first time. But if I then go here and, for example, buy some chocolate, maybe a bit more, like this, we will still wait for that request, but then it's added instantly here without sending another request behind the scenes. And I'd say that's an optimization which we definitely should apply here.